He forbade his son from marrying a seamstress. Years later, he saw her at the altar with another Chinese millionaire. If this story interested you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tell us which city you're watching from. We continue. The New York of the 2020s still preserved its historical contrasts, especially in the garment district, the beating heart of the American textile industry. Among the busy streets filled with shops, ateliers, and factories stood the imposing building, Irv Thompson Textiles, one of the largest companies in the industry nationwide. Its founder and president, Eugene Thompson, observed the city through the panoramic window of his office on the 30th floor. At 62, Eugene carried on his face the marks of a man who built an empire with his own hands. The son of Irish immigrants, who arrived in America with nothing but knowledge in weaving, he transformed the small family store into a powerhouse that dictated trends and prices in the national market. His motto was always clear to everyone around him: position is earned, status is maintained. That Monday morning began like so many others with the weekly board meeting. At his father's side, Michael Thompson, 30 years old, sole heir to the empire, maintained the elegant posture he had learned in the best boarding schools in Europe. With a degree in business administration from Wharton and an MBA from Harvard, Michael was the perfect reflection of his father's expectations, at least in appearance. And to conclude, gentlemen, I propose expansion into the southern market. In the next quarter, Michael concluded, presenting impressive financial projections on the conference room screen. Eugene nodded with discreet approval, while the directors applauded enthusiastically. The meeting adjourned and father and son remained alone. Excellent presentation, Michael. You're ready to take on the vice presidency. The young man smiled, but something in his eyes didn't match the expression on his lips. Thank you, father. I still have much to learn from you. Don't be modest. In 3 months you officially take over, and in 5 years I'll only be on the board watching you run everything. It's the natural path. Michael nodded, feeling the weight of those words compress his chest. The natural path. Nothing in his life had been natural. All choices, from school to college, from friendships to relationships, passed through Eugene's. Rigorous scrutiny. Even his apartment had been chosen by his father, a few blocks from the company, to optimize commuting time, as the patriarch justified. After the meeting, instead of returning to his office, Michael decided to visit the design department, one of the few places in the company where he felt genuinely at ease. There, among drawings, fabrics, and mannequins, he found a brief escape from the corporate world that suffocated him. "Mr. Michael, what a pleasant surprise," greeted Mrs. Wilson, the head of the creative department, a lady who had been working at the company since before he was born. "I came to see what's new for the spring-summer collection," he replied, letting his shoulders relax for the first time that day. "We're facing some challenges. We need something innovative, but the designers are lacking inspiration." Michael ran his hands over the fabrics displayed on the large central table. Silk, cotton, linen, textures that had always fascinated him since childhood, when he would escape from the finance lessons imposed by his father to watch the artisans working. "Maybe they need an outside perspective," he suggested. "Actually, we're considering hiring freelancers to bring in new ideas. There's a young designer still, little known but with extraordinary talent. I saw her work at the last independent fashion fair." "And why haven't you brought her in for an interview?" Mrs. Wilson hesitated before answering. "Well, she's from Williamsburg, works in a small cooperative studio. Her profile doesn't exactly fit the company's usual hiring standards." Michael immediately understood. The usual standards were one of Eugene Thompson's many unwritten rules. The company rarely hired people from humble origins for creative or executive positions, relegating them to production and general services. "Bring her in for an interview tomorrow. I want to see her work." "But your father." "I'll take responsibility." "Mrs. Wilson, what's her name?" "Sophia Carter. She's only 26 but has impressive talent with difficult fabrics." The next day, promptly at 10 a.m., Michael waited in the creative department's meeting room. When the door opened, he wasn't prepared for what he saw. Sophia Carter entered carrying a portfolio of drawings and some fabric samples. She was a young woman of medium height, light brown skin, curly hair tied in a messy bun. She wore a long, colourful skirt and a simple white blouse, complemented by handcrafted accessories. "Good morning, I'm Sophia Carter," she introduced herself with a firm voice, extending her hand to Michael. Something about her presence, perhaps the combination of simplicity and confidence, completely disarmed him. "Michael Thompson, please, have a seat." The interview began formally, with questions about experience and education. Sophia had studied fashion through a scholarship program at Parsons School of Design, working simultaneously as a seamstress to pay expenses. After graduation, instead of seeking employment at large companies, she preferred to found a cooperative studio with 3 other colleagues in Williamsburg. "Why a cooperative studio? You'd certainly have more stability in an established company," Michael questioned, genuinely curious. "Because I believe fashion can be democratic and inclusive," she replied without hesitation. "In our studio, we create unique pieces and also teach sewing to women from the community. Art shouldn't be the privilege of a few." There was a passion in her voice that contrasted with the pragmatism of the executives Michael encountered daily. When Sophia opened her portfolio, revealing her designs and samples, he was impressed. Her creations mixed traditional American techniques with contemporary lines, resulting in sophisticated yet accessible pieces. "This is extraordinary," he murmured, examining a dress that combined southern lace with minimalist cutting. "How do you achieve this effect on the fabric?" "It's a technique I learned from my grandmother, who was a lace maker in Charleston. I adapt the traditional method to work with modern materials." The conversation flowed naturally, extending much longer than planned. Michael found in Sophia not just a talented designer, but a person with vision and purpose, something he secretly envied. "I'd like to invite you to develop some pieces for our next collection. Initially as a freelancer," he proposed at the end of the meeting. Sophia's eyes sparkled with surprise. "It would be a great opportunity, but I have one condition," she replied, to Michael's astonishment. "Any piece I develop for Thompson must be produced following fair practices, with profit sharing for the artisans involved." Michael smiled, admiring her audacity. "This isn't a common negotiation in the fashion industry, Miss Carter. Neither are my creations common, Mr. Thompson." Something changed inside Michael at that moment. The confidence of that young woman, her unwavering integrity, even in the face of an opportunity many would accept without questioning, sparked an immediate admiration in him. "We have a deal then," he concluded, extending his hand. When their fingers touched in a firm handshake, neither of them imagined that this simple contact would be the beginning of a story that would challenge not only social conventions, but transform the world around them forever. In the weeks that followed, Sophia became a constant presence in Thompson Textile's creative department. Her talent quickly earned the respect of the team, and even the most experienced designers sought her opinion on new ideas. Michael, in turn, found more and more reasons to visit the department, always with some professional justification that didn't fool Mrs. Wilson. "The young boss has never been so interested in fabric samples," she commented one afternoon with Mr. Harris, the production manager for 3 decades. During one of these visits, Michael found Sophia alone in the studio, concentrating on a delicate embroidery she was applying to a blazer prototype. "That wasn't in the original design," he observed, approaching. Sophia looked up and a smile illuminated her face. "Last-minute inspiration. I remembered a pattern my mother used on the quilts she made when I was a child." Michael pulled up a chair and sat beside her, fascinated by the precision of her stitches. "Where did you learn to embroider like this?" "In life, Michael. My family has always worked with sewing. My great-grandmother was a freed slave who supported the family as a seamstress. My grandmother sewed for society ladies in Charleston, and my mother made trousseaux to supplement the family income. I grew up among fabrics and needles." The casual mention of Sophia's family history made Michael reflect on the privileges he had always had. While she came from generations that struggled for survival, he had grown up in mansions with butler and chauffeur. "Have you visited our main factory?" he asked, wanting to show her more of the company's universe. "I haven't had the opportunity yet. We can go tomorrow if you'd like. I have a meeting there in the morning and you could see the complete production process." The next day, as Michael drove his BMW convertible through the streets of New York toward Queens, where the company's main manufacturing unit was located, Sophia observed the city gradually transform. The skyscrapers of the financial district gave way to more modest neighborhoods, with small businesses and humble homes. "It's amazing how New York seems like several cities within one," she commented, feeling strangely comfortable beside him, despite the obvious differences between their worlds. "I rarely come to this part of the city," Michael confessed. "My life has always revolved around the same circuit: Upper East Side, Midtown, the office, and occasionally the Hamptons." "Then you're missing the best of New York. The soul of the city is in the neighborhoods, the street fairs, the small family restaurants, the impromptu jazz sessions." Michael smiled, imagining what it would be like to know this other New York through Sophia's perspective. The visit to the factory proved to be a transformative experience. While Michael attended to the administrative meeting, Sophia immersed herself in the production universe, talking with seamstresses and machine operators, learning about each step of the process. When they met again, her eyes sparkled with new ideas. "Michael, you have significant waste of fabric scraps that could be repurposed for a sustainable line. The seamstresses themselves showed me patchwork techniques they do at home with the leftovers." Her enthusiasm was contagious, and Michael found himself involved in the discussion about sustainability and reuse, themes that had never been a priority in the company, traditionally focused on profit and expansion. "Let's have lunch, and you can tell me more about this idea," he suggested. Instead of the refined restaurant that Michael frequented on the rare occasions he visited the area, Sophia took him to a small family establishment a few blocks from the factory, where many Thompson employees had lunch daily. "Mrs. Johnson, table for two, please," Sophia called, greeting the owner as if they were old acquaintances. "You've been here before?" Michael asked, surprised. "A few times, when visiting suppliers in the area. They serve the best soul food in Queens." Seated at a simple table covered with a checkered tablecloth, Michael observed Sophia interact naturally with the people around them, so different from him, always formal and distant. The food was delicious, the atmosphere welcoming, and for the first time in a long time he felt genuinely relaxed. "You seem like a different person when you smile like that," Sophia commented, taking him by surprise. "What do you mean?" "At the office you maintain this serious, controlled expression. Here, away from all that, you seem more authentic." The observation struck Michael deeply. Authentic. It was exactly what he didn't feel most of the time. "Maybe because at the office I'm playing a role that was written for me, not by me," he confessed, surprising himself with his own sincerity. Lunch extended for almost 2 hours, with conversation flowing between professional and personal topics. Michael discovered that Sophia was passionate about American literature and independent cinema. She, in turn, was surprised to learn that he played guitar in secret and had a collection of jazz vinyl records. "Why in secret?" she questioned. "My father considers music an unproductive pastime, unless it's to cultivate contacts at classical music concerts." "And what else do you hide because it doesn't fit his expectations?" The question hung in the air, heavy with implications. Michael looked away, unable to respond completely. In the days that followed, they developed a routine of meetings that transcended the professional environment. Michael visited Sophia's cooperative studio in Williamsburg, a colorful and vibrant space where women of different ages learned sewing techniques while sharing life stories. In return, he took her to Carnegie Hall to attend a concert, and afterward, to a small jazz club in the village. In these moments, away from the company's and society's gaze, they allowed themselves to be just Michael and Sophia, two young people discovering affinities that transcended social barriers. On a rainy Saturday afternoon, Michael appeared without warning at the studio. He found Sophia alone, organizing fabric scraps for a workshop that would take place the following day. "I needed to see you," he said simply, his hair wet from the rain falling outside. Sophia put down the fabrics and approached him, feeling her heart race. There was something different in Michael's gaze, an urgency mixed with vulnerability that she had never seen before. What happened? I had a terrible argument with my father. He found out about the sustainability project we're developing and said it's a waste of resources, that it doesn't match the premium image of the brand. "I'm sorry," she murmured, gently touching his arm. "Don't be." For the first time, I defended something I truly believe in. I told him that the future of fashion is in sustainability, that consumers are increasingly conscious. I cited data, successful case studies. And how did he react? Michael let out a bitter laugh. He said, "I'm being influenced by populist ideas since I started working with you." A heavy silence settled between them. Sophia took a step back, suddenly aware of the implications of those words. "Maybe I should step away from the project for a while," she suggested in a low voice. "No." The vehemence in Michael's response surprised them both. "I won't let him dictate who I work with or what I feel." The last words came out almost as a whisper. Their gazes met, laden with a tension that had been silently growing between them for weeks. "Michael, you know this is complicated. We come from different worlds." "So what? What does that matter?" "It matters a lot in your world. You're going to take over a company where people like me are usually just employees, never equal partners." Michael moved closer again, taking her hands in his. "Sophia, since I met you, I've started to question everything I've always accepted as absolute truth. My father's values, how the company operates, my own future. You've shown me there's a world beyond the one I grew up in, and I don't want to go back to the box where I've spent my entire life." Before she could respond, he leaned in and kissed her. A gentle, hesitant kiss at first, which deepened when Sophia responded, wrapping her arms around his neck. When they separated, breathless, the certainty that they had crossed an irreversible line hung between them. "This will complicate everything," she murmured, still in his arms, "or simplify it. For the first time in my life, I know exactly what I want." The sound of the studio door opening interrupted the moment. Claire, one of Sophia's partners, entered, shaking a soaked umbrella. "Oops, sorry to interrupt," she said with a mischievous smile, observing the two quickly moving apart. Michael regained his composure, greeting Claire formally, while Sophia tried to disguise the blush coloring her cheeks. "I need to go," he announced, reluctant. "But can we have dinner later?" "I'll call you," Sophia replied, aware of Claire's curious glances. When Michael left, Claire approached her friend with a serious expression. "Sophia, be careful. I know it's none of my business, but this guy is the son of one of the most powerful and traditional businessmen in New York. People like the Thompsons don't usually take well to those they consider below their class." "He's different, Claire." "They're all different until the family interferes. I just don't want to see you hurt." Sophia nodded, acknowledging her friend's legitimate concern, but in her heart, something told her that what was developing between her and Michael was too strong to be easily destroyed by social conventions. At the same time, a persistent voice in her mind questioned whether she was being naive in believing their love could overcome barriers so deeply rooted in American society. The news about the relationship between Michael and Sophia spread through the company like wildfire. Although they tried to maintain discretion, the exchanged glances during meetings and frequent lunches didn't go unnoticed. The employees were divided between those who found the modern fairy tale romantic and those who bet on how long it would last until Eugene Thompson put an end to the story. The answer came sooner than many expected. On a Thursday morning, Michael was urgently called to his father's office. Upon entering, he found Eugene standing by the window, with a folder of documents on the desk. "Close the door," ordered the patriarch without turning around. Michael obeyed, feeling a familiar tension fill the room. He knew that tone well. It was the same his father used before firing executives or cancelling multi-million-dollar contracts. "I receive weekly reports on all departments," Eugene began, finally turning to face his son. "Normally, I ignore gossip and rumors, but when they involve the future president of the company, I need to intervene. What exactly are you talking about, Father? Eugene opened the folder on the desk, revealing photos of Michael and Sophia in various moments, leaving the studio together, dining at a restaurant, walking hand in hand in Central Park. I hired private security for you years ago for your protection. I didn't expect them to bring me this kind of material. Michael felt the blood boil in his veins, divided between indignation at the invasion of privacy and the instinct to protect Sophia. You had me spied on? Monitored. It's different, and apparently it was the right decision. What do you think you're doing, Michael? This girl is an employee, a seamstress of dubious origin. She is a talented designer, educated, with business vision that many of your directors don't have, Michael replied, controlling his voice to avoid shouting. And dubious origin? What does that mean? That she wasn't born with a silver spoon? Like us? Eugene shook his head as if dealing with a stubborn child. You know very well. What I mean, our name, our social position brings responsibilities. The Thompsons haven't mixed with just anyone for 3 generations. We've built strategic alliances through suitable marriages. Suitable marriages? Michael let out a dry laugh. You talk as if we were in the 19th century. The principles that built our fortune don't change with time, son. Your mother came from one of the most traditional families in New York. Their marriage consolidated the Thompsons' position in New York high society and resulted in an unhappy marriage that ended in divorce after years of keeping up appearances, Michael retorted, touching the wound his father always avoided mentioning. Eugene hardened his expression, his tense jaw betraying his irritation. Don't mix issues. We're talking about your future and the company's future. In 3 months, you take over the vice presidency. You can't afford scandals or inappropriate associations. Sophia is not an inappropriate association. I love her, Father. The words came out with a conviction that surprised Michael himself. It was the first time he had verbalized his feelings so clearly. Eugene observed his son for long seconds, as if seeing him in a new light. Love, he finally repeated with disdain. You think you know what that is at 30. Love doesn't build empires, Michael. Commitment, strategy, and sacrifice do. Maybe I don't want an empire. The declaration hung in the air like blasphemy. Eugene approached his son, his eyes sparking with contained anger. You have 2 options. End this absurd relationship today or forget the vice presidency and everything I've built for you over decades. You can't be serious. I've never been more serious in my life, and that's not all. Eugene returned to the desk, picking up another document. If you choose that girl, know that she will also be terminated from the company. I'm sure her talent will find space in some backyard workshop, more suitable to her level. The threat hit Michael like a physical blow. Sophia was finally gaining professional recognition, building her name in the market. Being fired from Thompson would be a devastating setback to her career. This is blackmail, he murmured. This is business, Michael. Something you apparently still need to learn. You have until the end of the day to give me your answer. Leaving his father's office with trembling hands, Michael automatically headed for the building's terrace. He needed air, space to think. The view of the city stretching at his feet, normally comforting, now seemed to suffocate him with its infinite concrete labyrinth. How could he choose between the love he had discovered with Sophia and the family, legacy he had carried since birth? How could he be responsible for destroying her career? In the creative department, Sophia was working concentratedly on new prototypes when she received a message from Michael asking to meet her at the cafe near the company in 15 minutes. The urgent tone worried her, but she finished the sewing she was working on before leaving. The Madison Cafe was a traditional meeting point for business people and artists, with its marble tables and European atmosphere. Michael was already waiting for her at a discreet table in the back, his face pale and tense. Something happened, she said as she sat down. A statement, not a question. Michael related the conversation with his father, trying to soften the harshest words but being honest about the ultimatum received. Sophia listened in silence, her eyes fixed on the coffee cup that was cooling in front of her. So that's it, she finally said, her voice low but firm. "We've reached the point I knew we would eventually. Sophia, I'm not going to give in to his blackmail. I can resign from the vice presidency, find another job. And throw away everything you've worked for? Your family's legacy? Michael, be realistic. Being realistic is recognizing what really matters, and you matter to me more than a position or a name." Sophia stretched her arm across the table, touching his hand gently. "You say that now, but what about 5 years from now? When you realize you gave up everything for a romance that might not last? Don't talk like that. What we have is real, it's strong." "Yes, it is. But I don't know if it's strong enough to withstand the weight your father will put on us. He won't simply accept and move on, Michael. He'll make our life hell. I don't care." "But I care," Sophia replied, her eyes watering. "I care about you, about your future. And I also care about my work, about everything I've built." Michael felt a chill in his stomach, realizing the direction the conversation was taking. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that maybe your father is right. Maybe we've been naive to believe we could make this work. We're from worlds that are too different." "No, Sophia, don't let him win. Don't let these artificial barriers determine what we can feel, who we can love." A solitary tear ran down her face, which she quickly wiped away. "It's not just about us, Michael. Think about the other women at the studio who depend on contracts with Thompson. Think about your mother, who you told me finally found peace away from your father. Do you think he wouldn't somehow affect her too?" Michael felt the weight of those considerations. His father was known for his ability to destroy reputations and businesses when crossed. He had no doubt that he would use all his power and influence to punish anyone involved if necessary. "There must be another way," he insisted, desperate. "Maybe in the future," Sophia replied, trying to find some consolation. "When you're firmly established in the presidency, when I have my own consolidated brand, maybe then we can resume from a place of greater equality. That could take years. Then let it be years. If what we feel is true, it will withstand time." Michael knew that was a farewell disguised as a postponement. He knew Sophia well enough to understand that she was sacrificing herself for him, offering an honorable way out for both. "I can't accept this," he said, his voice breaking. "It's not in your hands to accept or not. It's my decision too, and I've already made it." Sophia stood up, unable to prolong that painful moment. "I'll resign tomorrow. Tell your father it's over, that he won. But ask him to maintain the contracts with the cooperative studio. Those women don't deserve to suffer because of us. Sophia, please. Goodbye, Michael, be happy." She leaned down, placing a soft kiss on his lips, a kiss that tasted of tears and broken promises, before turning and walking out of the cafe, her back straight in a final effort of dignity. Michael remained motionless, feeling as if a piece of himself had just departed with her. Around him the world continued, waiters serving tables, executives discussing business, tourists taking photos. No one noticed that in that corner of Madison Cafe, a heart had just broken. That night, alone in his minimalist apartment overlooking Central Park, Michael faced his reflection in the bathroom mirror. The man staring back seemed like a stranger. Empty eyes, defeated expression. He had yielded to his father's pressure, chosen the safe path, the expected path. He had made the sensible choice. Why, then, did he feel like the biggest failure in the world? In Williamsburg, Sophia cried in Claire's arms, who consoled her without saying, "I told you so," although they both knew that ending was predictable from the beginning. Between sobs, Sophia tried to convince herself that she had made the right choice, the mature choice. "It will pass," Claire murmured, stroking her hair. "And you'll come out stronger from this, as you always have." Sophia nodded, wiping away her tears. An idea was beginning to form in her mind. She wouldn't allow that pain to destroy her. As she had always done in life, she would transform suffering into fuel for something greater. 3 years passed since the painful separation at Madison Cafe. New York City continued its frenetic routine, indifferent to the personal dramas unfolding within it. Time, relentless in its march, had profoundly transformed the lives of Michael and Sophia, now following radically different trajectories. Michael Thompson, as promised, had assumed the vice presidency of the family company. His face frequently appeared in business magazines, always impeccable in tailored suits, alongside headlines celebrating his innovative management. Under his influence, Thompson Textiles had expanded to the international market, opening branches in Milan and New York, and incorporated sustainable practices that earned environmental responsibility awards, a small personal victory that he secretly dedicated to Sophia. In his office on the top floor of the Thompson building, Michael was analyzing financial reports when Deborah, his assistant, entered with the day's schedule. "Your father confirmed his attendance at dinner with the Chinese investors tonight. The reservation at the Four Seasons is made for 8 people. Thank you, Deborah. Any other urgent appointments?" "Just the video conference with Milan at 4 p.m. and—" She hesitated. "Your mother called. She asked you to return her call when you could." Michael nodded, dismissing the assistant. The relationship with Caroline, his mother, had strengthened in recent years. After the turbulent divorce from Eugene, she had built a new life in London, managing an art gallery. She was one of the few people with whom Michael could be completely honest. Picking up the phone, he dialed the international number. "My son," Caroline answered, with her slightly British accent. "How is New York's busiest businessman?" "Surviving. Mom, and you, how's the exhibition?" "Wonderful. We sold almost all the pieces at the opening, but I didn't call to talk about art. I saw some news that I thought you should know." Michael felt a tightness in his chest. He knew that tone of voice. "What news?" "It's about that girl, the designer, Sophia Carter. She's having a huge success in Paris. She just closed a partnership with one of the largest French haute couture houses." Sophia's name, which Michael had avoided pronouncing for years, provoked a wave of contradictory emotions. He felt pride, sadness, and a familiar emptiness that he had never managed to completely fill. "That's great for her," he responded with a controlled voice. "Michael, dear, it's been 3 years. Don't you think it's time to move on? Or better, to go back and fix things?" "Mom, please, you know it's not that simple." "Life is never simple, son. But it also doesn't need to be as complicated as you and your father make it seem. Anyway, I just thought you should know. The article is in this month's International Vogue. Her collection is inspired by American culture, but with a sophistication that conquered Paris." After hanging up, Michael could no longer concentrate on the reports. He opened his browser and searched for news about Sophia. He found dozens of recent articles. "The American who revolutionizes Parisian fashion. Sophia Carter. From the outskirts of New York to European runways, inclusion and sustainability, the new luxury according to Carter." The photos showed a different Sophia from the one he had known, more sophisticated, with a confident look of someone who conquered her space on her own merit. In a video interview, she spoke elegantly about her trajectory. "My inspiration comes from ordinary American women, those who face the daily struggle for survival, but don't lose the ability to express themselves through beauty. My grandmother sewed party dresses with scraps. Today I translate that same creativity to the context of haute couture." Michael closed the browser, feeling a mixture of admiration and regret. Sophia had transformed her pain into art, while he had become exactly what his father always wanted. Miles away, in a charming atelier in Le Marais, a historic district of Paris, Sophia was finalizing the last adjustments on a piece for her new collection. At 29, she had built an impressive career in record time. Her brand, Carter, symbolized the perfect fusion between American craftsmanship and European sophistication, conquering celebrities and fashion editors with designs that told stories of resistance and transformation. "Sophia, Monsieur Renaud has arrived for the meeting," announced Sophie, her French assistant. "Merci, Sophie. Tell him I'll be there in 5 minutes." Concluding the embroidery she was working on, a pattern inspired by the lace of Charleston, Sophia allowed herself a moment of reflection. Her life had changed drastically since leaving the United States. After separating from Michael, she had thrown herself headfirst into work, transforming the small cooperative studio into a locally respected brand. The turning point came when she won a young talent contest sponsored by the French Federation of Haute Couture, which included a scholarship to study in Paris. What should have been a temporary experience transformed into a permanent opportunity when her creations caught the attention of influential French designers. In 2 years, she went from student to owner of her own brand, taking with her some of the American artisans who worked in the cooperative studio. Despite her professional success, Sophia carried a silent melancholy that only her closest friends perceived. Claire, who now managed the American branch of the Carter brand, frequently asked about Michael during their weekly video calls. "You still think about him, don't you?" she would inquire, observing her friend's distant gaze. Sophia never answered directly, but her silence was revealing. What she had with Michael had been real, intense, transformative. It wasn't something she could simply erase with professional success or new relationships, and God knew she had tried. There had been other men in these 3 years, a Brazilian visual artist in Paris, a French businessman in the fashion industry, but no relationship prospered. Something was always missing, that inexplicable connection she had felt with Michael from their first meeting. After the meeting with Renault, an important buyer from a luxury store chain, Sophia found on her desk the most recent edition of Forbes, USA. On the cover, Michael's serious face stared at her, accompanied by the headline, "The New Textile King: How Michael Thompson is Revolutionizing a Traditional Empire." Sophie, who had placed the magazine there, commented casually, "I met this man at an event in Milan last month. Very charming, but he seemed, how do you say in America, alone in the crowd." Sophia nodded, involuntarily caressing Michael's image on the cover. She recognized that expression, the polite smile that didn't reach, his eyes the slightly lost look of someone who is present only physically. "Does he have a girlfriend?" The question escaped before she could contain it. "Not that I know of." They commented that he is very discreet about his personal life. A mystery for the celebrity press. That night, alone in her apartment overlooking the Seine, Sophia read the full article about Michael. The text praised his professional achievements, highlighting how he had modernized the family business without abandoning traditional values. One phrase in particular caught her attention. When questioned about personal life and marriage plans, the Thompson heir deflects with elegance. "My current focus is consolidating our international presence. The rest will come at the right time," he states with the pragmatism characteristic of the family. Sophia closed the magazine, feeling a pang of sadness. Michael seemed to have completely surrendered to his father's expectations, transforming into the perfect executive, the perfect son. Where was that young man who dreamed of music and questioned the outdated values of New York's elite? In New York, after dinner with the Chinese investors, Michael drove through the empty streets of early morning, in no hurry to reach the empty apartment he called home. The meeting had been a success. Contracts signed, champagne opened, pats on the back. His father, now chairman of the board, had not spared praise for his performance. "You've exceeded my expectations, son." The Thompson name is in good hands. It was everything he had always wanted to hear, wasn't it? The patriarch's recognition, the certainty that he was up to the family legacy. Why then did he feel so empty? Without thinking much, he diverted the car to Williamsburg. The bohemian neighborhood remained vibrant even at that hour, with bars still open and young people chatting on sidewalks. He parked in front of the building where Sophia's cooperative studio had operated. The space now housed the American branch of the Carter brand, much more elegant and sophisticated than the old studio, but still maintaining the welcoming essence that Sophia imprinted on everything she touched. Obviously, it was closed at that hour. Michael remained in the car, observing the illuminated sign with her surname, Carter, a name that was now synonymous with elegance and innovation in the fashion world. She had achieved on her own merit what he had inherited by birth: relevance, respect, recognition. His cell phone rang, interrupting his thoughts. It was Eugene. "Where are you?" "I'm still at the Four Seasons with Wei Jiang. He wants to discuss the possibility of opening a branch in Shanghai." "I'm handling a personal matter, Dad. We already finished the official meeting. Business of this magnitude doesn't have a time to end, Michael. Come back here now." The direct order, the authoritarian tone, so familiar, so suffocating. Michael felt something break inside him. I'm not coming back, Dad. I have other plans for the rest of the night. What are you talking about? The Chinese. The Chinese can wait until tomorrow. My life has waited too long. He hung up before Eugene could respond, an act of rebellion he would never have considered 3 years before. He looked again at the closed studio, then at the magazine on the passenger seat, where a photo of Sophia in Paris illustrated a small note about her most recent collection. Paris. So far, and at the same time, just a flight away. Michael picked up the phone again and dialed his assistant. Deborah, I need you to book a flight to Paris, the first one available tomorrow. Paris? But sir, your schedule is full this week. You have the board meeting on Wednesday, the collection launch on Thursday. Cancel everything, or rather postpone it. Urgent personal matters. As he drove back home, Michael felt something he hadn't experienced in a long time. Hope. He didn't know if Sophia would receive him, if there would still be any chance for them, but he needed to try. He was tired of living for his father's approval, tired of sacrificing his personal happiness for the greater good of the Thompson Empire. What he didn't know was that, at that exact moment, destiny was preparing a twist that neither of them could predict. The Grand Palais in Paris shimmered under the night sky, illuminated by powerful spotlights that transformed the historic structure into a cathedral of light. Limousines lined up at the entrance, disgorging celebrities, business people, and figures from global high society for the most anticipated event of Paris Fashion Week, the Cultural Bridges charity fashion show, which brought together designers of different nationalities to support children's education. Inside the century-old structure, now adapted into a spectacular runway, Sophia walked back and forth, checking the final details before the show began. As one of the honored designers of the night, she felt the weight of responsibility mixed with incredible personal achievement. 3 years earlier, she would never have imagined being there, about to present her collection alongside established names in global fashion. 5 minutes to start. Mademoiselle. Carter, announced one of the producers with a strong French accent. Sophia nodded, taking a deep breath to control her nervousness. Her collection, titled Roots That Fly, was a celebration of the American diaspora. Women who, like her, left their humble origins to conquer the world, but carrying with them the essence of their roots. It's going to be amazing, assured Claire, who had come from New York especially for the event. You deserve every second of this recognition. In the main hall, VIP guests were beginning to take their places in the front row. Among them, discreet in his impeccably tailored Italian suit, was Anthony Lin, one of the most influential businessmen in U.S.-China trade, known for his keen eye for promising investments and his passion for the arts. At 35, Anthony had built an impressive empire connecting American producers to the Asian market. The son of Chinese immigrants who settled in New York in the 1980s, he combined Eastern pragmatism with American flexibility, a mix that had proven unbeatable in international business. His interest in Sophia Carter went beyond professional admiration. They had met 6 months earlier during a fashion event in Shanghai, and since then had maintained frequent contact, developing a friendship that was slowly evolving into something more. Monsieur Lan, what a pleasure to have you with us tonight, greeted the event organizer, leading him to his privileged seat. Mademoiselle Carter will be delighted with your presence. Anthony smiled politely, settling into his chair. The pleasure is all mine. Sophia's work deserves to be celebrated. A few meters away, standing at the entrance to the Grand Palais, with a VIP invitation in trembling hands, Michael Thompson was trying to gather courage to enter. He had arrived in Paris just 2 hours ago, coming directly from the airport to the event, after discovering by chance that Sophia would be one of the honorees of the night. The original plan, calling her, asking for a meeting to talk, now seemed childish and inadequate. How could he simply phone after 3 years of silence? What would he say? Hello, it's me, the man who chose the family company instead of our love. A security guard approached, interrupting his thoughts. Monsieur, are you going in? The event is about to begin. Michael nodded, handing over the invitation. Once inside the magnificent hall, he was led to his seat, ironically only 2 chairs away from Anthony Lynn, whom he immediately recognized from business magazines and social events. The lights dimmed, and a voice announced the beginning of the show in French, English, and Spanish. The music started, a fusion of American rhythms with contemporary electronic beats, and the first model emerged on the runway, wearing a creation that merged artisanal lace with avant-garde cuts. With each new piece presented, Michael felt his heart accelerate. Sophia's work was in every detail, in every unexpected combination of textures and colors. It was as if she were telling a story through the fabrics, her story, the journey of a woman who transformed adversities into art. When all the models completed their walks, the designers were called to the runway for the final applause. Sophia appeared, radiant in a dress of her own that combined elements from all the looks presented, a true visual manifesto of her creative philosophy. The audience rose in a standing ovation. Michael remained motionless, unable to take his eyes off her, feeling a mixture of pride, regret, and love that had never diminished, only slumbered under layers of commitments and others' expectations. After the show, VIP guests were directed to an exclusive cocktail reception in an adjacent area where they could talk with the designers. Michael moved nervously among groups of people, searching for Sophia with his gaze. Finally, he spotted her, surrounded by journalists and admirers, answering questions with the ease of someone accustomed to the spotlight. From where he stood, he could hear fragments of her interview. "My inspiration comes from American women who struggle daily. Each piece tells a story of overcoming." When the journalists finally moved away, Anthony Lynn approached Sophia, handing her a glass of champagne and a kiss on the cheek that revealed intimacy. Michael felt a tightness in his chest, seeing the genuine smile she offered the businessman. "You are absolutely stunning," Anthony complimented, in fluent English with a slight accent. "All of Paris will talk about this show for weeks." "Thank you for coming," Sophia replied, genuinely happy with his presence. "I know how busy your schedule is. I wouldn't miss it for anything. By the way, about that matter we discussed, I already have an answer." Michael couldn't hear the rest of the conversation as a group of people passed between them, blocking his view. When the path cleared again, he saw Sophia hugging Anthony enthusiastically, clearly, moved by something he had said. The scene was like a punch to the stomach. Had he arrived too late? Had Sophia moved on, found someone who valued her openly, without fear of social judgments? Michael was about to give up, head for the exit, when their gazes met across the hall. The world around seemed to slow down. He saw Sophia's eyes widen in recognition, her expression transforming from surprise to something indefinable, a mixture of contradictory emotions that mirrored his own. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then, as if waking from a trance, Sophia murmured something to Anthony and began walking toward Michael. Each step seemed an eternity. "Michael," she said simply when they were finally face to face. There was no accusation in her voice, just a statement. "Sophia, you were incredible up there." An uncomfortable silence settled between them, loaded with unspoken words and 3 years of distance. "What are you doing in Paris?" she finally asked. "I came to see you," he replied, opting for direct honesty. "I needed to see you." Before Sophia could respond, Anthony approached, gently placing his hand on her shoulder. "I didn't want to interrupt, but the Vogue representatives are looking for you," he said, before noticing Michael. "Oh, sorry, I didn't. I know you were talking to someone." "Anthony, this is Michael Thompson," Sophia introduced, her voice slightly tense. "Michael, this is Anthony Lynn." The 2 men greeted each other with a formal handshake, studying each other mutually. Michael felt a pang of surprise, realizing that he knew Anthony not only from magazines, they had met at international business conferences. "Thompson from Thompson Textiles?" asked Anthony, connecting the dots. "We met at the US-China Economic Forum last year." "Exactly," confirmed Michael. "You represented the Lynn conglomerate." "What a small world," commented Anthony, looking curiously from Michael to Sophia. "You know each other from New York, I imagine." A moment of tension hung in the air before Sophia answered. Michael was my employer for a brief period, before I came to Paris. The simplification hurt Michael like a reopened wound, but he maintained a neutral expression. Actually, Sophia was revolutionizing our creative department before Paris discovered her. Anthony nodded, clearly perceiving there was more to that story than the two admitted. Well, I don't want to disturb your reunion. Sophia, I'll be with the Vogue representatives when you're done. When he moved away, Michael and Sophia found themselves alone again amid the crowd. You seem close, Michael commented, unable to contain the implicit question. We're friends, Sophia replied, deliberately vague. He's been a great supporter of my work. We just closed a partnership to open a Carter branch in Shanghai. So that's what you were celebrating? Yes. Sophia studied him intently. Michael, why are you really here? After 3 years without a word, without any contact, the direct question demanded an equally direct answer. Because I made the worst mistake of my life in letting you go, he confessed, the words coming out as if they had waited years to be pronounced. Because I built everything my father always wanted, but lost what I truly desired. Because I still love you, Sophia. I never stopped loving you. Sophia briefly closed her eyes, as if the words had physically hit her. You can't do this, she murmured. You can't show up like this after all this time and expect nothing to have changed. I know everything has changed, you've changed, I've changed, but what I feel hasn't changed. And your father, the company, all the reasons that separated us still exist, Michael. I don't care about that anymore. I'm ready to give up everything if necessary. Sophia took a step back, shaking her head. This isn't fair. You can't put this weight on me now that I've finally rebuilt my life, now that I have my own path. A heavy silence settled between them, filled with ambient music and distant conversations. We need to talk, Michael finally said. Not here. Not now, but we really need to talk. Sophia hesitated, torn between the reason that told her to keep her distance and the heart that still raced in his presence. I'll be at the Hotel Le Marais, he continued, handing her a card with his room number written on it. I'll be in Paris for 3 days. The decision to seek me out or not is yours. Before she could respond, Michael leaned in and softly kissed her on the cheek, a brief touch but loaded with emotion. Then he turned and walked toward the exit, leaving Sophia standing in the middle of the hall, the card clutched between her fingers and her face marked by a solitary tear that had finally escaped. From across the hall, Anthony observed the scene with a thoughtful expression, connecting pieces of a puzzle that was beginning to make sense. The story between Sophia and Michael was clearly deeper than a simple professional relationship. The businessman sighed, recognizing in both their eyes something he had seen many times in his culture. Yuanfen, the predestined connection between two people that time and distance cannot erase. The Parisian night enveloped the city in its starry mantle as Sophia walked aimlessly along the banks of the Seine, Michael's card still between her fingers. The celebration after the show had continued. Without her, she had excused herself to Anthony and the other guests, claiming exhaustion after weeks of intense preparation. It wasn't exactly a lie. She felt exhausted, but not just physically. Michael's reappearance had unearthed emotions that she thought carefully buried. The city lights reflected on the river waters, creating a spectacle of luminous points dancing with the gentle movement of the waves. Sophia sat on one of the benches by the riverside, letting the night breeze refresh her tumultuous thoughts. Why now? She murmured to herself, as if the wind could offer her an answer. Why, after I finally rebuilt my life? Her phone vibrated, in the pocket of her elegant wool coat. It was a message from Anthony. Hope you're okay. If you need to talk, I'll be at the hotel until tomorrow afternoon. Anthony, so attentive, so present. In the last 6 months, he had become a constant in her life. First as a professional contact interested in her work, then as a friend, and recently as something that didn't yet have a clear definition, but was moving toward a relationship. There was no rush, no pressure. He respected her space, admired her independence, and, most importantly, would never ask her to choose between love and career. Sophia typed a quick response. "I'm okay, just needed some fresh air. Breakfast tomorrow?" The reply came almost immediately. "Certainly. Rest well." Putting away the phone, Sophia returned to contemplating Michael's card. "Hotel Le Marais, room 712. 3 days in Paris. The decision is yours." As if the city were conspiring to increase her dilemma, it began to rain, a fine, persistent drizzle, typically Parisian. Sophia got up, seeking shelter, and realized she had walked to the Pont des Arts, the famous bridge where couples used to leave padlocks as a symbol of eternal love, before the practice was prohibited. The irony of the situation didn't escape her. There she was, literally on a bridge, divided between two shores, the past returning with Michael and the promising future she was beginning to envision with Anthony. When she reached her apartment in Le Marais, Sophia was soaked and emotionally exhausted. The space, though small by American standards, was a luxury in Paris. An elegant loft with large windows overlooking an inner courtyard, typical of French historic buildings. The white walls served as a canvas for her inspirations. Colorful fabrics, family photos, mementos from America, and clippings from her previous collections. After a hot bath, she put on comfortable pajamas and prepared a cup of chamomile tea. Sitting on the sofa, with her legs crossed under a blanket, she finally allowed herself to relive the moments of that night, the triumph of the fashion show, the excitement of the partnership with Anthony, and, mainly, the shock of seeing Michael. What disturbed her most wasn't just his unexpected presence, but the realization that, despite the years and distance, her heart still responded to him. When their gazes met across the hall, it was as if time had frozen, transporting her back to those intense months in New York. "I still love you, Sophia. I never stopped loving you." His words echoed in her mind. Were they true, or just the result of an existential crisis moment? Michael had everything now: the vice presidency, his father's respect, the empire he had always been destined to command. Why would he give that up now? The phone rang again, interrupting her thoughts. This time, it was Claire, probably wanting to know how the rest of the night had gone. "Sophia, how was it? Did everyone love the collection?" "It was amazing, Claire," Sophia replied, trying to inject enthusiasm into her voice. "Better than we could have imagined. I knew it. I saw some photos that are already circulating on social media. You killed it, girl. And Anthony, did he formalize the partnership for Shanghai?" "Yes, it's all set. We start the project next quarter." There was a pause, and Sophia could practically see Claire's suspicious expression on the other end of the line. "What happened? Your voice sounds strange." Sophia hesitated. Claire was her best friend, the person who had been by her side in the most difficult moments, including the separation from Michael. If there was anyone with whom she could be completely honest, it was her. Michael showed up at the show. Absolute silence on the other end, followed by an exclamation of surprise. "Michael Thompson? In Paris? How?" "He came to see me, Claire. Said he made the worst mistake of his life in letting me go, that he still loves me." "Oh my God," Claire murmured. "After 3 years? What did you say?" "Nothing, practically. I was in shock. He gave me his hotel card, said he'll be in Paris for 3 days, and that the decision to seek him out or not is mine." "And will you?" The question hung in the air, heavy with implications. Sophia closed her eyes, trying to organize her thoughts. "I don't know. Part of me wants to go, to hear what he has to say. Another part is afraid to dig up all that, to get hurt again. And Anthony, where does he fit into all this?" The question hit Sophia like a bucket of cold water. Anthony, so solid, so present, offering her a safe path to the future. "He doesn't deserve to be involved in this mess," she finally replied. "He's an amazing man, Claire. Any woman would be lucky to have him." "But you're not just any woman, Sophia, and by your tone of voice it seems your heart still belongs to someone else." The conversation continued for some time, with Claire offering measured advice, but making it clear that, in the end, the decision needed to come from Sophia's heart. When they hung up, The designer felt simultaneously relieved for having shared her dilemma and even more confused about what to do. The night advanced and sleep didn't come. At 3 in the morning on impulse, Sophia took a piece of paper and began to list pros and cons of each situation, an exercise that always helped her make difficult decisions. To her frustration, the list didn't bring clarity. Matters of the heart rarely surrendered to the cold logic of numbers. The next morning, after a night of restless sleep, Sophia met Anthony for breakfast at the elegant restaurant of the hotel where he was staying. The businessman greeted her with a warm smile and a soft kiss on the cheek. "You look tired," he observed as they sat down. "The show demanded a lot from you." "I didn't sleep well," she admitted, accepting the cup of coffee he was serving her. "Too much adrenaline still circulating, I guess." Anthony nodded, although his perceptive eyes suggested he suspected there was more behind that insomnia. "So, Shanghai," he began, trying to liven up the conversation, "do you have ideas for the store yet? I thought of a space in the Xintiandi district, which mixes traditional Chinese architecture with contemporary touches. It would perfectly match your aesthetic." Sophia tried to concentrate on the project details, on the ambitious plans they had drawn together. It was an extraordinary opportunity, fruit of her hard work and the trust Anthony placed in her talent. In the middle of the conversation, he covered her hand with his, a simple gesture, but loaded with meaning. "Sophia, I know something has been bothering you since last night. It has to do with that American, doesn't it, Michael Thompson?" The direct question took her by surprise. Anthony had always been perceptive in business, but his sensitivity to emotional matters was equally impressive. "How did you—" "The way you looked at each other, the tension between you. It wasn't hard to perceive there's a history there." Sophia sighed, suddenly feeling exhausted from keeping up appearances. "We had a relationship 3 years ago in New York. It ended when the social differences between us became an insurmountable obstacle. Or at least, that's what we thought at the time." Anthony listened attentively as she related her story with Michael, the meeting at the company, the blossoming of love despite the differences, Eugene Thompson's fierce opposition, and the painful separation that eventually led her to Paris. "And now he appears saying he made a mistake," Anthony concluded, understanding the situation, "that he's willing to give up everything for you." Sophia nodded, embarrassed to be having that conversation with someone who in recent weeks had begun to occupy a special space in her life. "Anthony, I'm so sorry. You didn't deserve to be involved in this mess." To her surprise, he smiled, not a bitter or resentful smile, but genuinely understanding. "Sophia, when my parents left China to start over in America, they taught me about a concept called yuanfen. It's something like destiny, but more specific. It refers to predestined connections between people who, no matter how time and distance separate them, find ways to reconnect." He paused, taking a sip of coffee before continuing. "Last night, when I saw you two looking at each other across the hall, I recognized the yuanfen. There's something unfinished between you, something that needs resolution." "But what about us?" Sophia asked, genuinely confused by his reaction. "We were starting something, and that can continue if it's what your heart truly desires. But I don't want to be a transitional chapter in your story, Sophia. Either we're building something true together, or we should remain friends and business partners." Anthony's sincerity touched her deeply. In a world where personal relationships frequently mixed with professional interests, his integrity was rare and precious. "What should I do?" she asked, more to herself than to him. "I think you already know," he replied softly. "Go, talk to him. Find out if what you had or have is worth saving. Regardless of the outcome, I'll be here as your friend and partner. The store in Shanghai will happen anyway. Your brilliant career doesn't depend on your personal choices, at least not with me." Sophia felt tears in her eyes, moved by the generosity of this extraordinary man. "Thank you," she murmured, squeezing his hand. Hours later, Sophia found herself standing in front of the Hotel Le Marais, her heart beating hard against her chest. After long walks through the streets of Paris and much reflection, she had reached the conclusion that she needed, at minimum, to hear what Michael had to say. She owed it to herself, to the love they had lived, and perhaps to the future they might still build. With determined steps, she entered the elegant Art Deco lobby of the hotel. In the elevator, as she ascended to the 7th floor, she mentally rehearsed what she would say. But when the door of room 712 opened, revealing Michael, disheveled, hair, eyes marked by a poorly slept night, and an expression of surprise and relief at seeing her, all the carefully prepared words disappeared. "You came," he said simply, as if not believing what he saw. "Yes," she replied, trying to maintain her composure. "We need to talk." The hotel room had the discreet elegance characteristic of traditional Parisian establishments, walls in soft tones, classic furniture, and a window that framed the Eiffel Tower in the distance. Michael stepped aside, inviting Sophia to enter. The space, although large by European standards, suddenly seemed small with her presence. "Would you like coffee? Or something stronger, perhaps?" he offered, trying to break the initial tension. "Coffee is fine," Sophia replied, choosing to remain standing as she observed the room. On the desk, she noticed various documents scattered and the laptop open, signs that Michael continued working even thousands of miles from New York. While he prepared the coffee in the small machine available in the room, Sophia approached the window. Paris stretched below, stunning under the cloudy afternoon sky. So different from New York, but equally fascinating in its complexity. "You still prefer it without sugar?" Michael asked, extending a cup to her. The detail remembered after so long touched her more than she would like to admit. "Yes, thank you." They sat down, he in the armchair near the window, she on the edge of the bed, maintaining a safe distance between them. "So," they both began simultaneously, interrupting themselves with embarrassed smiles. "You first," Michael conceded. Sophia took a deep breath, organizing her thoughts. "I want to understand what all this means, Michael. After 3 years without any contact, you appear at the biggest event of my career saying you made a mistake, that you still love me. Why? Now, what changed?" Michael placed his cup on the side table, carefully choosing his words, everything and nothing at the same time. "Professionally, I achieved everything that was programmed for me. I took over the vice presidency, expanded the company internationally, gained the market's respect, and most importantly, my father's approval." He paused, his gaze momentarily lost in the landscape beyond the window. "But each achievement left me emptier. Each compliment sounded more hollow." "That doesn't answer my question," Sophia insisted. "Why now?" "Because I finally had courage," he admitted. 2 days ago, I saw your photo in a magazine. You were at an event in Paris, smiling in that way that lights up your eyes. The text mentioned your success, how you had revolutionized the fashion scene with designs that celebrate diversity and American cultural heritage. And in that moment, everything became clear. While I was following a path traced by others, you were creating your own. While I was conforming, you were transforming. Sophia felt the emotion grow in her chest, but kept her expression controlled. "So that's it? An existential crisis? Disappointment with your choices?" "No, Sophia, it's much more." Michael stood up, slowly approaching. "It's realizing that I gave up the only person who made me feel truly alive. It's recognizing that I chose security instead of happiness, tradition instead of love. It's admitting that I was a coward when I should have been brave." The sincerity in his words was palpable, but Sophia still needed more. "And your father? The company? All the reasons that separated us still exist, Michael." "My father will have to accept my choices or not. The company will continue to exist, with or without me, in the vice presidency. I've learned the hard way that no professional success compensates for the emptiness of a life without genuine love." Sophia also stood up, again creating distance between them. She walked to the window, observing the city while organizing her thoughts. "You make it seem so simple," she murmured, "as if we could simply pick up where we left off, ignoring the 3 years that have passed, everything we've built separately." "Don't think it's simple," he replied, approaching again, but without invading her space. "I know you've built a life here, a brilliant career, new relationships. I'm not asking you to abandon any of that. I'm asking for a chance, just one, To do things differently this time. Sophia turned to face him, finally allowing emotion to show in her voice. Do you have any idea how much I suffered? It wasn't just an interrupted romance, Michael. It was having to start over from scratch in another country, another language, away from everything I knew. It was waking up every morning trying not to think about you, about us, about what could have been. I know, he murmured, guilt evident in his eyes. And I'll spend the rest of my life trying to make up for that suffering, if you give me that chance. And what if it doesn't work again? What if your father continues to oppose? What if the pressures are too great? Then we'll face it together, Michael replied with conviction. I'm not the same man who gave in to pressures 3 years ago. I've learned that some things are worth any sacrifice. Our love is one of them. The silence that followed was loaded with contained emotion, unformulated questions, fragile hopes that were beginning to take shape. There's something else you need to know, Sophia finally said. Anthony Lynn. He and I are developing a relationship. That goes beyond business, nothing official yet, but... Michael felt a tightness in his chest but nodded. I noticed last night. The way he looks at you, it's how I look. He's an extraordinary man, Sophia continued. Intelligent, kind, successful. Someone who values my work and respects my independence. Each word was like a small wound, but Michael remained firm. He seems to be everything you deserve. I talked with him this morning about you, about us, about the past. And he said something about Yuan Fen, predestined connections that neither time nor distance can break. He said he recognized this when he saw us together last night. Michael couldn't contain a sad smile. A wise man, on top of everything. He encouraged me to come here, to discover if what we had or have is worth saving. The revelation surprised Michael. That gesture from Anthony demonstrated a greatness of spirit that few possessed. And you, Sophia? What do you think? Is it worth it? The question hung between them, loaded with possibilities. Sophia walked slowly around the room, as if the physical movement helped organize her thoughts. In these 3 years, I've built a life I'm proud of. I transformed pain into art, gained respect in an extremely competitive market, proved, mainly to myself, that my worth doesn't depend on last names or social connections. She paused, facing him directly. And as much as I've tried, as much as I've gotten involved with other people, as much as I've focused exclusively on my career, I've never managed to completely forget you, Michael. You remained as an unanswered question, an unfinished chapter. Her words lit a flame of hope in Michael's chest. Then let's finish that chapter together and start another, he suggested, slowly approaching. I'm not asking you to abandon everything you've built. On the contrary, I want to be part of that construction from now on. How exactly would that work? You in New York, me in Paris? We can find a middle ground. I can move to Paris, work remotely, or we can divide our time between the two cities. No distance is insurmountable when there's genuine will. The conviction in his voice was touching, but Sophia still had reservations. What about your father? Would he accept this change? Honestly, probably not at first. He's still stuck in outdated values about social class and suitable marriages. But that doesn't matter to me anymore. If I have to choose between his approval and a life with you, I won't hesitate this time. Sophia approached, touching Michael's face gently as if checking if he was real. 3 years ago, I said that maybe in the future, when you were firmly established in the presidency and I had my own consolidated brand, we could try again. It seems that future arrived sooner than we imagined. Michael covered her hand with his, feeling the familiar warmth he had missed so much. It means we're gaining time, he whispered. Sophia's eyes shone with contained tears, not of sadness but of pure emotion, of renewed possibilities. It won't be easy, she cautioned. We've both changed, grown apart. We'll have to relearn each other. Each day by your side will be a discovery that I await with joy. Slowly, as if time decelerated around them, their faces approached. The kiss that sealed that new beginning was delicate, loaded with memories and promises, a bridge between the past they shared and the future they would build together. 3 months later, the Thompson mansion in the Hamptons was decorated for an exceptional event. In the spacious garden, under elegant tents, prominent figures of New York society, influential business people, and important names from national and international fashion gathered. The occasion? The official launch of the partnership between Thompson Textiles and the Carter brand, titled Cultural Bridges, a line of sustainable fabrics and exclusive pieces that combined the manufacturing tradition of the century-old company with the innovative vision of the designer who had conquered Paris. In the center of the garden, under a gazebo decorated with tropical flowers, Michael and Sophia received guests side by side. She stunning in a dress of her own creation that merged traditional southern lace with contemporary cutting. He, elegant in a navy blue suit that perfectly complemented her look. Among the special guests, Anthony Lynn circulated with ease, animatedly, discussing the prospects for expanding the brand to the Asian market. His presence, far from causing embarrassment, symbolized the emotional and professional maturity of all involved. In a more reserved corner of the garden, Eugene Thompson observed the scene with a contemplative expression. The last few months had been a real whirlwind in his life. Michael's decision to resign from the vice presidency to follow Sophia to Paris had provoked the biggest family crisis in decades. Weeks of heated discussions, ultimatums, and heavy silences marked the relationship between father and son. The turnaround began unexpectedly, through Caroline, Eugene's ex-wife and Michael's mother. Temporarily returning from London, she organized a dinner that brought together Eugene, Michael, and Sophia, the first formal meeting between the patriarch and the designer since the breakup 3 years earlier. That night transformed Eugene's perception. Getting to truly know Sophia, not as the seamstress of dubious origin, but as the talented and determined woman who conquered Paris on her own merit, something began to change within him. The way she talked about business, her clear vision about the future of sustainable fashion, her knowledge of the international market, all this revealed a partner worthy of the son he so prized. "You weren't protecting her from me," Michael had said during a decisive conversation weeks later. "You were protecting your own prejudice, your limited vision of a world that no longer exists." The words, harsh but true, provoked the deepest reflection in Eugene's life. At 65, he was beginning to question values he had always considered absolute, to recognize that the world beyond his traditional circles was much richer and more complex than he imagined. The turning point came when the partnership proposal between Thompson and Carter reached his hands, accompanied by impressive financial projections and letters of support from important players in the international market. The numbers didn't lie. That union, besides making emotional sense for his son, represented an extraordinary business opportunity. Now, observing the couple receive compliments and congratulations, Eugene felt a complex mixture of emotions: pride for the son who had the courage to follow his heart, admiration for the woman who had earned her place on her own merit, and mainly, a late understanding that true love transcended social, cultural, and economic barriers. Approaching the couple, Eugene cleared his throat slightly to get their attention. "The press is asking for an official photo of the Thompson family with the new partner," he said, carefully choosing his words. Michael and Sophia exchanged surprised glances. It was the first time Eugene had referred to her as part of the family, albeit indirectly. "Of course, Dad," Michael replied, putting his arm around Sophia's waist. "We're ready." As they posed for the cameras, Eugene in the center, Michael and Sophia at his side, the patriarch surprised everyone by whispering, "You proved me wrong, and for the first time in my life, I'm happy to have been defeated." Sophia smiled, moved by the admission that had cost so much to the proud businessman. At that moment, under the camera flashes, a new page began to be written in the Thompson history, a story where tradition and innovation, power and sensitivity, past and future intertwined like the threads of a fabric, both resistant and flexible at the same time. Later that night, when most of the guests had already departed, Michael and Sophia walked hand in hand through the illuminated garden. They stopped under an old oak tree whose branches formed a natural canopy over their heads. "We did it," he murmured, embracing her from behind as they observed the stars between the leaves. "Against all odds." We still have challenges ahead," she reminded him, smiling. "Paris, New York, the expansion to Shanghai, the winter collection. But we'll face them together," Michael completed, "as it should have been from the beginning." Turing. To face him, Sophia touched his face with tenderness. "You know what I like most about fabrics? The way different threads with distinct colors and textures can intertwine to create something new, something beautiful, something that wouldn't be possible if each thread remained isolated." "Like us," Michael agreed, softly kissing the palm of her hand. "Like us, different but complementary, stronger together than apart." Under the starry sky of the Hamptons, they sealed this promise with a kiss. Not a happy ending, but the beginning of a shared journey, a unique fabric being patiently created